All right, get ready to dive deep. Today we're exploring behavioral economics. That fascinating area where psychology meets the world of money. We're going to untangle how our animal spirits can drive the economy to crazy highs and lows.
It's amazing how our gut feelings and beliefs have so much power over something like the economy, which seems like it should be all about data.
Right, you'd think it would be more predictable. So, to help us understand these animal spirits, we have excerpts from 3 books, all by the brilliant economist George Akerlof. He's sometimes joined by other insightful colleagues, but he's the common thread here. We'll be taking a look at animal spirits, how human psychology drives the economy, efficiency wage models of the labor market, and get this, an economic theorist's book of tales.
These books are full of surprises. We're going to discover how those animal spirits influence economic booms and busts, why companies might choose to pay more than minimum wage, and we'll even dive into a thought-provoking comparison between jobs and dam sites.
Okay, let's start by unleashing these animal spirits. In Animal Spirits, Akerlof and Shiller argue that traditional economics often overlooks the powerful role of human psychology. They say it's a big oversight.
It's like they think emotions don't belong in the equation.
Yeah.
But these psychological forces are major drivers, not just quirks. For example, think about the housing bubble and the financial crisis. You remember, right? Houses in the middle of nowhere, selling for crazy prices.
It was a wild time. Hard to imagine purely rational economics explaining that.
Definitely not. It's more like everyone was caught in a frenzy. That brings us to the first animal spirit Akerlof and Schiller talk about. Confidence, or maybe overconfidence in this case.
Overconfidence is right. It's like that herd mentality took over. People saw prices skyrocketing and just jumped on board, assuming it would go on forever.
And when everyone's doing it, it feels safe, right?
Right.
Even when the numbers don't quite make sense. Then we have the animal spirit of fairness.
Yeah, fairness comes up in both animal spirits and efficiency wage models of the labor market. Akerlof and his colleagues show how our sense of fairness impacts wages, worker motivation, all sorts of things. It's fascinating, really. Imagine people choosing to stay unemployed rather than take a job they consider unfair.
Right. It's not just about the biggest paycheck. Feeling valued matters.
Yeah.
It really challenges those traditional economic models where everyone is just trying to maximize their income.
Of course, fairness isn't always a given in the real world. Animal Spirits also delves into the darker side. Corruption, the subprime mortgage crisis comes to mind, all those deceptive practices, hitting fees, bad faith running rampant. It really destabilized the economy.
Oh, for sure.
Sure.
And Akerlof and his co-author Paul Romer, they've done a lot of research on this, showing how history is full of examples of what they call looting, individuals and institutions exploiting the system for personal gain, leaving a trail of economic damage behind them.
It's a good reminder that ethical behavior, or the lack of it, is a major factor in economic stability. Speaking of things we often overlook, what about money illusion? We all fall for it sometimes.
Oh yeah, money illusion. It's tricky. It's that tendency to focus on the face value of money and not its actual buying power.
You think you're getting a deal, but inflation's eating away at your savings.
Exactly. Especially during high inflation, it can lead to some bad financial decisions.
Okay, and then there's stories. This is the fifth animal spirit, and it's especially intriguing. Akerlof and Schiller point out how narratives and popular beliefs sway our economic actions, even if those beliefs are completely wrong, like that housing prices always go up narrative. It fueled the whole bubble.
Stories are powerful. They simplify complex things, create a shared understanding, even if that understanding is off base. And nowadays, those stories can spread like wildfire online.
So true. Makes you realize we should always question the narratives behind our financial decisions.
Right.
What's the story behind this investment? What are people assuming? Are we just caught up in a hype cycle?
Excellent questions to ask. Always good to step back and think critically.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that sounds a bit counterintuitive at first. Efficiency wages.
Yeah, that's from efficiency wage models of the labor market. It's the idea that companies might actually benefit from paying their workers more than the minimum wage.
More than the minimum, doesn't that hurt their bottom line? It seems counterintuitive.
It does seem a little strange at first glance. But there are some compelling reasons why higher wages can be a good business strategy. We'll explore those next. Higher wages, good business strategy. It's a bit of a head-scratcher, right?
It does seem counterintuitive, but I'm all ears.
Well, think about it. When a company pays more than the minimum, it can actually reduce something economists call shirking.
Shirking, like slacking off.
Exactly. When workers are paid more, they have more to lose if they get fired. So they're less likely to slack off. They want to keep that higher paying job.
That makes sense. Makes the cost of job loss a lot higher.
Right. And not just shirking. Higher wages can also lead to lower turnover.
Meaning employees are less likely to quit.
Exactly. When people are happy with their pay, they're less likely to look for other jobs, which saves the company a ton of money on recruiting and training new employees.
It's all about retaining those skilled workers.
And it's not just about keeping the ones you have. Higher wages can also attract a better pool of applicants in the first place.
You're saying companies can be more selective when they offer higher pay?
Precisely. They can choose from a bigger group of talented and qualified candidates. And there's one more thing, something less tangible, but still important. Higher wages can lead to improved morale.
Yeah, morale. It's like a psychological boost.
Right. When people feel like they're being paid fairly, they're more likely to be happy and motivated at work. They're also more likely to be loyal to the company, which can boost productivity even further.
So efficiency wages aren't just about throwing money around. It's about investing in your workforce.
Precisely. Now, how about we tackle that comparison between jobs and dam sites?
Okay, this should be good. I've been looking forward to this. It's from an economic theorist's book of tales, right?
Yes. This one's a real mind bender. Akerlof compares jobs to dam sites and workers to dams.
Jobs are dam sites, workers are dams. Okay, go on.
So imagine a dam. It has the potential to generate power, right? But if the dam is too small or not well maintained, it can't fully utilize that potential. Same with jobs and workers. A job represents a certain amount of potential output. But if the worker isn't skilled enough or motivated enough, they can't fully utilize that potential.
So an underutilized job is like a dam that's not generating enough power.
Exactly. Akerlof calls this the underutilization of a job. And he argues that it can be just as wasteful as an underutilized dam site.
Well, that's an interesting analogy. And what does this have to do with wages and unemployment?
Well, Akerlof suggests that some workers, even if they are willing to work for free, might not be hired because they wouldn't fully utilize the potential of the job.
So even at zero wages, it might not make sense to hire someone who's not a good fit.
Right. The employer might be better off leaving the job vacant or waiting for a more qualified candidate.
That's fascinating. It challenges the traditional notion that unemployment is simply a matter of supply and demand.
Exactly. Akerlof's work shows how human factors, like skills, motivation, and even personality, can play a significant role in the labor market.
Okay, let's dive into some other interesting insights from these books. In an economic theorist's book of tales, Akerlof explores something called cognitive dissonance. You know, that mental discomfort we feel when our actions don't align with our beliefs.
Ah, cognitive dissonance. It's a powerful force. Akerlof uses it to explain why people sometimes engage in risky behavior, even when they know it's not in their best interest.
Like ignoring safety precautions at work, even though they understand the risks.
Exactly. They might downplay the dangers or convince themselves it won't happen to them because admitting the risks would create that uncomfortable cognitive dissonance.
We're pretty good at rationalizing things to make ourselves feel better, even if it's not logical.
Oh, absolutely. Our brains are wired to avoid discomfort, even if it means bending the truth a little. Then there's the role of social norms and incentives.
Akerlof explores that in an economic theorist's book of tales as well, right?
He does. He argues that social norms can be just as powerful as economic incentives when it comes to shaping behavior. Think about things like honesty, fairness, or even class loyalty. These are often driven by social expectations and a sense of belonging.
It's like there's an unwritten code of conduct that guides our actions.
Exactly. And sometimes those social norms can be more powerful than any monetary reward or punishment.
Okay, last but not least, Akerlof also delves into how social policies impact work norms and class loyalty.
This is where things get really interesting. He looks at how different types of social safety nets can influence people's attitudes towards work and their sense of belonging.
So are you saying that government policies can actually shape our identities?
In a way, yes. Akerlof argues that well-designed social policies can foster a sense of solidarity and shared responsibility, while poorly designed policies can create divisions and erode social trust.
It makes you think about the unintended consequences of policies, beyond just the numbers.
Absolutely. Akerlof's work reminds us that economics is about people, not just abstract theories. And sometimes, those human factors can have the biggest impact of all.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We're in the final stretch now, and this part is all about the intersection of identity and economics. Kind of a fascinating concept, right?
It is, actually. It might sound surprising, but our sense of self plays a big role in the economic choices we make.
So we're talking about our identities, our beliefs about who we are, how we see ourselves.
Right, all of that. And it might seem like a big leap from who we are to how we handle work and money.
Yeah, at first glance, they seem like totally separate things.
They do, don't they? But Akerlof and his colleague, Rachel Cranton, they developed a whole new area of study around this called identity economics. They argue that our identities really impact our perceptions of what's appropriate in the economy, what's desirable, even what's fair.
Okay, so you're saying our sense of self actually influences the kind of work we do, how much we expect to be paid, even our work ethic.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
like we have these internal rules that say, this is the kind of person I am, and this is the kind of work that fits me. These rules are often shaped by social norms and expectations.
Interesting. Can you give me an example?
Sure. Think about gender and occupational segregation. Why certain professions are dominated by men and others by women. Traditional economics might say it's all about skills and preferences.
Right, maybe women are just naturally better suited for certain jobs and men for others.
Well, identity economics offers a different perspective. It suggests that those gender disparities are also about societal norms and expectations, what we consider women's work versus men's work.
So it's not just about individual choices. There are these broader societal forces at play.
Precisely. Those norms can create a powerful sense of what's appropriate for each gender, even if those norms are totally outdated or discriminatory.
Makes sense. And this idea of identity shaping our choices. Could it also explain why some people are more motivated at work than others?
It definitely could. Akerlof and Cranton talk about how our identities can affect work effort and motivation. Let's say someone strongly identifies with their company or profession.
They really feel like they belong.
Exactly. They might be more willing to put in extra effort, long hours, even accept lower pay because they're driven by loyalty and a sense of purpose, like they're working for something bigger than themselves.
It's about contributing to a collective goal, being part of something meaningful.
Right. But someone who doesn't feel that connection, they might prioritize their own interests, do the bare minimum, and jump ship for a better offer.
It's all about that sense of belonging, feeling valued.
That's a big part of it. And it makes me think about company culture. If you can create that strong sense of shared identity, it could really boost motivation and productivity.
So company culture is more than just perks and fun events. It's about creating a sense of community.
It is. Akerlof and Cranton even talk about the importance of paying attention to the physical design of a workplace to foster that sense of community. Now, identity economics goes beyond just companies.
You mean it can explain bigger social and economic issues?
Exactly. Take persistent poverty in certain communities, for example.
I'm listening.
Akerlof and Cranton argue that persistent poverty is partly due to the social norms and identities within those communities. Individuals might feel pressure to conform to those norms.
Even if it means missing out on economic opportunities.
It's like a catch-come-to. Belonging to one group can hold you back from succeeding in another.
Wow, it really highlights how social and economic factors are intertwined. It's not a level playing field out there.
It's not. Our social identities, the groups we belong to, can open doors, but they can also create barriers. Another area where this comes into play is education.
So it's not just about learning facts and skills.
Right. It's also about how we come to see ourselves and what we believe is possible for our future.
Yeah.
Akerlof and Cranton say schools actually shape our identities and aspirations.
So a good education can change not just what we know, but who we believe we can be.
Absolutely. And those beliefs can impact everything from educational attainment to career choices and earnings.
This has been a really eye-opening discussion. We've talked about how animal spirits influence the economy, how companies can use this knowledge, and now how our own sense of self shapes our economic outcomes.
It's amazing how it all ties together. This deep dive into animal spirits and identity economics shows us that economics isn't just about cold, hard data and rationality. It's about understanding human behavior.
It's about the stories we tell ourselves, our emotions, our social identities, all these things that make us human. And they matter more than we might think.
They do. And I think the biggest takeaway for everyone listening is awareness. Be aware of the stories that shape your perceptions, your own biases, how your identity and social norms influence your economic choices. It's the first step to taking control.
Awareness is key. The more we understand these forces, the better decisions we can make about our work, our finances, our lives.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for exploring these ideas with me.
It's been a pleasure, and to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed exploring the surprising connections between psychology, identity, and the economy. We'll see you next time.